Why run?
Well, I decided to run because I've always had an interest in politics and policy and governance since I was quite young. And I'm passionate about community, and I'm a hard worker, and I know I have the skills and professional background to bring to this job what the residents of Milton need. When I studied law, my family was young, so it was a little bit busy then, but now that they're older, my youngest is 13, oldest is 22, I have more time now and flexibility in my practice that I can devote to this endeavor.
What do you see as the top priorities in Milton in the next term?
Well, the next term we're going to have some votes on some pretty important issues. We've got the Cannabis Act coming up that we have to deal with. We've got our continued concerns with infrastructure and growth that are going to have to be dealt with as well by the new council. I think the challenge, especially for the ward that I'm in, is making sure that we balance the interests of residents in the rural and urban areas, because Ward 1 has a very large rural population that are facing their own unique issues, and the urban area continues to have concerns with respect to infrastructure and growth as well. So there's some very large town-wide issues. Transit is one as well. These are all things that council is really going to have to give a lot of deliberation and consideration to in the upcoming term.
What do you see as the issues in your ward?
Well, I already touched on that a little bit. So the issues in the ward that I would be representing in the rural area, they have a unique set of concerns. They especially have a major concern with a quarry company that's coming in trying to get a large excavation project underway, an aggregate company, very close to residential area. And it could have a detrimental effect on our water table as well. So that actually moves into the urban concern, that particular issue. In the urban areas, we continue to be worried about growth that's maybe moving a little too fast for our infrastructure to keep up. We're looking at traffic, transit, and ongoing concerns with those types of issues in the urban area as well.
How would you bring better jobs to Milton?
Well, I think in order to bring better jobs, you have to attract quality employers. So we need to take a good look at our transit situation, and we have to make it appealing as far as places for people to live as well. I mean, if you're going to have a large employer move into town, they want to make sure their employees have quality places to live. There's got to be schools and that sort of thing as well. I also think it's really important for town council to have a very good ongoing relationship with community organizations like the Downtown Business Improvement Area Association, the Chamber of Commerce. Those are really the organizations that are doing the grunt work of bringing employers to town and attracting those larger and mid and small businesses as well.
How would you manage growth?
Well, growth, I mean, that genie's kind of out of the bottle. We have to continue to grow because the province is mandating us to under legislation. So I think what we have to do, though, is we have to put pressure back on the province to say, look, if you want us to continue to grow at this rapid pace, we need some support. Whether it's more financial support for helping us get our infrastructure up to the standards for the number of residents coming in, or maybe just letting us having a little more control over how the growth happens and at what pace as well. And I know that the current council is passing that decision along to the next council to vote upon. I personally am opposed to any increase in council compensation. I'm not doing this for the money. I have a law practice, and I can make a lot more money actually putting the time into my legal practice. This is something you do because you're passionate about helping community and representation. So I personally don't think voters, the people of Milton, want to see increases to their elected representatives. That being said, councillors need to have the resources available to them to do their jobs. So that would be an analysis that we'd have to undertake very carefully and deliberate rather conservatively, I would hope, when it comes up.
How would you like to see the town of Milton approach marijuana legalization? Yeah,
so this is a topic that I'm a little bit torn about myself. So the approach I decided to take with it, and what I would take with all issues, is I speak to the residents. So as their representative, I bring their position to council. So as I've been going door to door, the overwhelming majority of people I've spoken to, which actually surprised me a little bit, have said that they think council should at least consider allowing storefronts to be present in Milton. So we have until January to decide whether or not we're going to opt out of that factor of the legislation, so we can decide whether or not we want to allow private storefronts to be selling marijuana in town. So if council does end up voting to allow that, then we're going to have a lot of consultation at that point with the public about where such a storefront would be, how it would be managed, marketed. Plus we have to work with the province and the legislative framework, and there's still a lot of uncertainty with respect to that legislation, so it'll be interesting to see how it goes.
would you encourage affordable housing?
Well, affordable housing's tricky because it's a private sector issue. I mean, we have builders coming in, they're developing, and their bottom line is to make money. So if buyers will continue to pay the high prices, then builders will continue to charge them. I think what we need to do at council is work with, again, community organizations to make sure that we have a mix of housing at different price points. And we also have to think a little bit more about subsidized housing as opposed to affordable housing, because subsidized housing is something that, you know, potentially people who may never be homeowners themselves still need somewhere to live. So that subsidized housing piece is really important for that. And we can speak to our representatives at the region about what's available, because, you know, I think we underestimate how many people are actually precariously housed in our region, just because it's a type of self-reporting data that a lot of people just don't disclose. So I think that we have to look at the data, look at the numbers, and then decide how we're going to approach both affordable and sustainable subsidized housing.
How would you improve services for seniors and youth?
Yeah, seniors and youth, although they're on different ends of the spectrum, they have very similar needs, right? I think primarily transit is going to be very helpful for seniors and youth. Working with the region to introduce different programs to target seniors and youth, to keep them involved, to get them involved in the community if they're not, provide support when they need it. And the best thing to do is to consult with seniors and youth. I mean, they're the ones who know what they need for their specific groups. And we know the literature tells us that when these seniors and youth are involved in the planning of these services, the services are more successful.
Why should people vote for you?
Well, I think people should vote for me because I understand the unique situation that Milton is in. We are a unique community. We are very rural, and we're also so urban. You know, being close to a major metropolis in Toronto on the 401, and we have large rural economies. We're really in a unique place. I was born and raised here. I've lived in the rural area. I've lived in the urban area. Have family in both areas. I run a business, my husband runs a business, my children go to school here. So I understand Milton, and I'm a hard worker. I'm not afraid of hard work. All my life I've wanted to maximize my time, get the most bang for my buck out of the hours in the day, and I see this as a natural extension of what I'm already good at.
Thank you very much.
You're very welcome.